Hello YouTube, and welcome back to the second tutorial video for Backing Track Maker. In this video I will talk about creating a song file, which is the base information needed for a backing track. On the screen there is a list of the talking points I will cover, so let's get started. So the first thing we need to do when we're thinking about creating a backing track is what song will we do? What style will we use? What instruments will we play um, along with the chords? Are we going to use multipads in the song? And what I normally do is I spend some time at the keyboard working on the style for the song that I choose. And once I've got the song style, the instruments and multipads, etc., all sorted out, I put that into a registration. I name the registration with the song name, and I save that so I can call that up when I have my completed song file. We simply call that up, and it will then call up the style, and we can play the chord file, chord and command file to to the keyboard with the right style already loaded. So the next thing we look at doing, or actually it's part of the process while you're looking at how to play the song, etc., is to get a chord or lyrics chart for the song. Um, and I go to the internet and just get that from the internet. So let's just see if we can do a quick search for the song that we're going to do. So I've chosen a song called And I Love Her from the Beatles. It's an old song, was made in 1964, but a good song and a very good introduction for this video. So we're looking for a chord and lyrics chart. Now I've got in here, let's have a look at one. I've got many different places I can go to find chord charts, etc. So let's just try this one here. I'm going to search for And I Love Her. Press enter. Let's see what happens. It comes up here with the Beatles, blah, blah, blah. Whole lot of different tabs have been created for this song. So I'll just pick the first one and see what we get. Okay, it's most of these tab files are made for guitar, not keyboards. But that's one there. I'm not so happy with that one. Let's try this one down here. It has 303 hits, and that might be better. Okay, this is more like it. Even though it's got the guitar tabs, we have here the chords and the lyrics for the song, which that looks pretty good. So we're going to use this one. Okay, now we've done that. Let's put this to one side, and we'll use that as we make our song. So let's talk a little bit about the actual parts of a song once we come to backing track maker, or BTM as I call it, to make our song file. So first things first, you'll notice that the Microsoft Wavetable synth is selected. So that's because I don't have my keyboard on at the moment. We don't need the keyboard on. But we're ready to make our song. We've got our chord file, and so we're ready to go. But let's first find out about how we're going to do this. So in BT Maker we have the song help as I described in the previous video. So let's go and have a look at that first, right? A song file consists of three parts. There are what we call marker lines. That is just text information such as, intro, verse 1, verse 2, those sorts of things. And this, we put that in the song file to make the song file more readable. It is information that doesn't actually get used. It gets ignored when you create the MIDI command file for your keyboard. But we do include that in the song file. The next important thing is, of course, the chord lines, and this is probably the most important. In the previous video, I suggested that BTM is a super duper chord looper, and it is, because you can enter the chords for the entire song in BTM and it'll play it back to your keyboard just like you would do with a chord looper, excepting it's completely hands off. You don't even have to use your hands to play the keyboard at all. So what are chord lines? Chord lines are lines that contain the measure markers. Now you've got to arrange your song in measures, otherwise BTM or any other program wouldn't know how to create the MIDI file. Um, Also, chord lines will contain what we call commands. Now commands are just that. They're system exclusive messages which go to the keyboard and tell the keyboard to start playing, which variation to use, which fill in to use, endings, and all that sort of stuff. You can also um, control the vocal harmony setting to on or off with the start commands. And if you look down here, the start commands are enclosed in curly brackets. So down here we have a full list of all the commands we can use, and we'll get into that as we start to create our file. The other thing that are in chord lines naturally are chords. So each of the lines that we make with BTM must start with a full stop or period. That tells BTM this is a chord line. Down further, we go into the third part, which are the lyric lines. Now, we set the lines up for the keyboard. Remember, this song is meant to be played back eventually on the keyboard. So we set the lyric lines. I like to use complete lyric lines so that when they are displayed on the keyboard, you don't have single words, such as you might find in some MIDI files. And the keyboard will break the line up when it sees the slash, the forward slash down here. You'll notice that's a little forward slash. So when you put in your lyric line, what you have to do is start off the lyric line with a percent sign that tells BTM this is a lyric line, and the line ends on a forward slash, and that will tell the keyboard this is where we have to break the line. Okay. Now down here we have all the chords that Yamaha keyboards can use. There are 35 of these chords in all, I believe, and you have the chords which are root chords such as C, F, G, etc. Then you got all the types, and the types of chords are majors, minors, seventh chords, other types like augmented chords, diminished chords, etc. And then you also have another thing which Yamaha keyboards can do, and that is to play a different bass note for the chord instead of the root. So for argument's sake, if you're playing a C chord, it's normal that the bass chord for that, the bass note for that chord would be a C. But of course, you guys who know your music theory, you can change that C to a G or even an E as a bass note. And so Yamaha has created what's known as the slash chord, and down here is a list of all the slash chords. Basically, for each note in a particular scale, you can have a slash chord. Now, There are certain ways that we enter these chords, and they've been made to be very straightforward and simple. If you have a chord by itself, it will automatically assume we've got a major chord, right? So F is equal to F major. A chord with no bass note, no slash, like F slash F, is basically the same as saying this is an F major chord and the bass note will be F. So you can just enter an F and BTM will assume the rest. Now, multiple chords in a bar. As you know, that some bars have more than one chord in them. Typically, chords will play on beat 1 and perhaps on beat 3. But in some cases, there might be chords on beat 1 and 4 or 1, 3, and 4, whatever. All you need to do to make that happen is to separate multiple chords for a single bar by a comma. So if you've got two chords in the bar on beat 1 and beat 3, for example, you would enter in uh, chord 1, then two commas. So the first comma is for the first beat, and then there's a space, and then the second comma, which means there's no chord in between, and then beat number 3 will be the next chord. So if you typed in F comma comma C, that would be equal to chord F on the first beat, no chord on the second beat, and chord C on the third beat. If you had another chord on the fourth beat, you would have another comma after the C and then your chord for that beat. So those are the basis, and you can always come back to this screen to refer to uh, how the chord needs to be typed in, or all the rest of the information here, which commands you can use and so on. So let's now start making our file. So we assume that this is a new file, right? So the first thing we need to do is to enter our information for our song. So I'm going to type in here that the name of the song is And I Love Her. The artist name, of course, is the Fabulous Beatles. Still a Beatles fan after all these years. The year that this song was created was actually in 1964. I've looked that up. The cover artist, I say me, that's you or me. My music name is RL Music. So I'll be the cover artist. Now the important stuff. The important stuff is, as we mentioned before, what's the time signature? And I've researched that. It's a time signature of 4/4 for this particular song. And the other one is the tempo. And for this song, we're going to use a tempo of 94 beats per minute. So now that we've got that, we can get down into the area here. Now, this is the area where we will actually create the song. And I explained in the last video that this is a text file you're creating. You can do copy and pasting and all the good stuff that you can do with a program like Notepad in Windows. So what I like to do is to type the information of the song in the song file itself, so that when I look at a song file, because you can open up a song file in Notepad at any time, I'm just going to copy and paste this information in here. It's basically the information we have at the top, but it's just for reference in the file itself. As I mentioned, that this is a marker line, those two lines there, and they'll be ignored when you create your MIDI file. So let's get started. Over here we know that the chords that we want are D minor and A minor, and this is the lyric line here. So let's start by copying the lyric line over. So I'm going to highlight this lyric line like that, and then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put that lyric line right there, right? I like to put my lyric lines before or above the chords. Most websites you go to that provide chords and lyrics put the chords above the lyric line. I like to do it the other way. You can do it both ways in BGM, but I like to do it the other way so that I already have the lyric line there. And by the way, I've got to put my percent sign in front of my lyric line. And now I can go and place my chords exactly where I want them, right? But before we do that, I have planned out that we are going to use a particular way of playing the song, right? So let me get the song file open here, and let me see. I need to go to there, all my songs over here, and the song file. So I've already created the song file. I'm just recreating it here for us, right? So I'm going to start the song off with a count in. So let me just copy some information in here. This I typed in when I started off. So I'm going to start this song off with a count in, right? So the count in will go tick, 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 and then the chords will start. So how do I code that in the song file here? I type the word count in just to let me know that this is a count in. Then I put in my period to indicate this is going to be uh, a chord line, and then I put in a bar marker to say that this will be bar number 1 of the song. I put in a command which is start, and this tells the keyboard to start playing the style, right? So when I'm going to play this back to the keyboard, I'll go to the keyboard, I will select the registration that's got my settings for the song, and then I come over here and I can play this back at any time to the keyboard. So I've got starting the style to play. I'm going to start off with intro number 1. So that's what the I1 means there. And notice that they've got the curly brackets around them. And then the chord will be D minor. So the song starts with a count in. When you create a bar, you must put a chord in the bar. Otherwise, it's BTM and the keyboard won't know what chord to play. So anyway, that's our first line. So in the next line, we are going to, again, this is the way we planned out the song. So I've planned that we will have an introduction of 4 bars in the song, right? And once we play the song back, you'll understand why I've done what I've done here in my planning for the song. And when you plan out your own songs, you'll know what you want to do. And you just come over here and you type it all in. A lot of the work can be done with copying and pasting, like you can copy these chords and these lyric lines over and then just modify them, put in the periods and the percent signs where you need to have them. So for the next bit here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an introduction, and I want this to go into the MIDI file. So intro, and the reason for this is when you actually playing this back on your keyboard and you're using this backing track, you are getting information from the MIDI file that says we're playing an intro. It's going to be 4 bars long, and and we create it as a lyric line inside the file, right? Now I'm going to just copy over the line here, which contains the chords and the instructions. But normally I would be typing this in. By the way, it's not hard to get the style. Once you've got your plan for your song, you just transfer all the information over, and it's really quite straightforward to do that. So what am I doing here? I'm putting in a chord line for the intro, and so there's my bar. I'm going to use variation A, and so I've just got an A in the curly brackets there. And there's 2 bars with the chord of D minor, and then another 2 bars with the chord of C. That's my intro. And if you know the song, they play this little intro there, do 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 doom, and they do that twice, and then they get into the verse. So now we can start to enter information. I'm going to put a note there that this is verse 1. I won't make that a lyric line, just be informational. Now we've got our first line there. Now we need to put our chords in, right? So once again, for brevity, I'm going to copy the chords over from the song which I've already done previously. There we are. And so I'm placing the chords where I would need them to be in the song. So there's my bar line. Chord is D minor, comes over, I give her all my love. And so there's my next chord on the word all, the A minor plays. And that's how you enter your song. So I'm going to speed this up a lot now by entering the rest of the first verse. And you'll see how straightforward it becomes. And as we go along, I'll indicate special things that we're doing where we're putting fill-ins and so on, right? So let me just copy this over. Verse number 1. Okay, so there's the full verse. So I give her all my love. There's my chords. That's all I do. Again, same chords. And if you saw my love, songs, once you get into the actual constructions of songs, you guys will know they're very repetitive. The chords repeat all the time. Once you get the first verse down and perhaps a chorus, you just copy and paste all that stuff into new verses and you change the lyrics. So it takes very little time to actually make a song file. So the important and interesting thing about this song is at the end of the verse, we want to put in a fill, and we're going to use fill in B right here. So that we put into curly brackets, and it will be on the chord of C, and then we launch into the second verse. So I'm going to copy the complete second verse over, and I'm going to introduce another new idea. So let me just copy this over. Control C, and here we put a Control V. Now, notice I've said here that for verse 2, use your multipad 1. So what happens here is when I play this back to my keyboard, right? It plays the chords. I can play around, well, while those chords are playing, I can add multipads in manually sitting at the keyboard. I can play along with the computer and add extra bits in. So once I get everything down the way I want it, then I'm going to do a recording, and I'm going to record from the keyboard. So I got my chord file. It's like playing the chord looper on your keyboard. And I'm going to add the extra bits, the multipads and the right hand play and all that sort of stuff uh, to enhance and embellish my backing track. So what I'm going to do now is just enter the rest of the song. We come now to the chorus. We put that in. So down here, here's my chorus. And here I remind myself that I got to turn the multipad off. And what happens down here is we play the chorus. We go to variation C for the chorus. We play our chords, and then as we come to the end of the chorus, we put a fill in, which is going to be fill in C. Everything's abbreviated. When you need to put these commands in, you can refer to how the command needs to look simply by coming down here and looking at this part here. These are all the commands we can use. Your fill-ins FA, FB, FC, and you can use the break as well, BRK for the break. So those are all buttons on your keyboard that that the BTM will actually trigger when you are playing this back to the keyboard. So back to our song data. I'm now going to put in verse number 3. So we've played our keyboard. One of the things you need to notice is that whenever you use a fill-in, you must tell the keyboard on the next bar what variation you're going to play. Otherwise, the keyboard will just continue playing the fill-in all the time. So we've when you we've pushed the fill-in there, and we come back to verse 3 and we select the variation C again, and then we do the next bit, and we remind ourselves we need to turn the multipad on again. Um, when we get into actually doing this, so I'm going to take the song all the way through from where we are now to having made a video for this song, and you'll see that I'm reminding myself I've got to turn the multipad on again, and I'll explain in the next part which multipad we're going to use and all that sort of good stuff. So we play the verse number 3, we end the verse with a fill in, and then we come to the solo part because there is a solo in the song. Now that solo is played with a guitar, and when we create the backing track, I will play that solo in manually as we are recording. But we're not there yet. We're just making our basic backing track file, our chord file if you like. So let's put that in. But here's the solo, and the solo is just a repeat of the chords. We put in a selection there. We've got a fill in. We come back to variation C, and then we play these chords, and we play our solo over the top of that, and we end the solo with another fill in, and then we go to a repeat of verse C down here. When you're busy creating your file, you'll make mistakes, and you may leave a chord out, or you may leave a bar marker out. When you're playing it back to your keyboard, you need to listen to the chords playing, sing along with the song, and make sure that everything is in place. It becomes quite easy to do once you've just done one or two songs. So here we repeat our verse number 3. We come back to using the multipad number 1, and we come to the end of the song. So what we do down here, I'm going to put all this in and then explain it to you. Control C, come over here, Control V. Now we've done all of the song up to the point where we've done the repeat, I should say, of verse number 3. We now have an outro where there are 8 bars. It's kind of like the solo. We play these chords and we play the outro, and I'll show you how we do that when we actually do this particular song. And finally, we end the song with ending number 1. So at the appropriate point after the last chord there, it will end the song with a particular ending. You can use fade outs and all kinds of tricks there that you would normally use when you're playing the song manually. But remember, I know I've got this question from a lot of people many times. Why do you make a backing track? Why not just play everything live? The thing is, you guys will know, if you've got yourself a Genos or one of the SX keyboards or even the high-end PSR keyboards, there are a lot of buttons and a lot of things that you might want to do in a song, and to play it all live is pretty tricky. And I take my hat off to those people who can do that. I'm also going to sing the song, so the reason I'm making a backing track is so that everything is done and all I have to do is add my lyrics, and then in a final part of the whole tutorial process, I'm going to make a video of the song, right? So that's my purpose. I do when I'm playing live, I normally have a live version of the song, which is just the basic chords, and I let that play so that just between you and me, we don't have any mistakes while we're playing. And then I play over the top of it and add, the multipads and the right hand play and all that sort of stuff. And it's a lot easier even when you're doing a live gig. So, folks, right here is the completed song file. We started with a count in and an intro, and we went through. We've got in each of the lines, we've got a lyric line, which is started with a percent sign and is ended with a forward slash. And we go all the way down. We've got our chord lines there. Chord lines must start with the period. We enter in our chords. I do it underneath. You can put this on top if you want to. No big deal. But I put in my lyric line first, then my chord line, and I go all the way through. And as I'm going, I save the file and I play it back to the keyboard and I listen and make corrections and all those sorts of things, right? And this here over here has given me the basis of the song for the chords and where the lyric lines are, etc. And so now that I've finished using this tab, I've got my iteration of the song data. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save the song. Um, we will have saved the song many times before this, but now that I've done everything in one hit, I'll just save the song. And I've already worked with the song, so I'll just copy that over the top. You'll get the reminder saying, hey, the song already exists. Do you want to replace it? I say yes, I'll replace it. And now I have got a song file completed, ready to play back to my keyboard. I've tested it, it's working. Um, what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to play that back to the keyboard, and then we're going to do a recording of this file right here. So guys, thanks for watching, and I look forward to doing the next video, which will be, as I just mentioned, taking this information and making some noise with it on the keyboard. Thanks for watching. See you next time.